Fear is one of the most common and universal human emotions. Feeling apprehension in moments of real danger is part of a survival mechanism. But what about the fear that prevents us from moving forward, making choices, and fully living? This fear subtly manifests disguised and can hide beneath various layers. Often, it doesn't show up explicitly, but camouflages itself in thoughts, attitudes, and habits that pull us away from our goals and happiness. This fear, which acts almost like a silent saboteur, works to undermine our confidence and, slowly, our desire to grow. But how can we identify when it is present in our lives? How do we know if fear is truly responsible for our paralysis, the excuses we make, or the choices we avoid? In this video, we will explore both the subtler and more obvious signs that fear, rather than courage, is guiding you and how it may be limiting your experiences. First, we need to understand the nature of fear. It can stem from various sources: past traumas, personal insecurities, a fear of losing control, or being judged. Often, these fears are born from lived experiences, past relationships, received criticisms, or internalized ideas that were accepted without question. The biggest problem arises when this fear becomes a pattern, a filter through which we interpret the world and make decisions. That's when it becomes an obstacle, a limiting factor that keeps us from acting according to our desires and intuitions. One of the most common signs that fear is present in your life is procrastination. Have you ever noticed how certain activities, especially those related to your deepest dreams and goals, tend to be left for later? Many times, you tell yourself you'll start that project when you have more time, more money, or more security. However, the issue lies precisely in the idea that the perfect moment exists. Procrastination is not just a matter of a lack of time or resources. It's a sign that you are afraid of what might happen if you truly commit to what you desire. Maybe it's a fear of failing, not being good enough, being judged, or even of having to deal with success and all the changes it might bring. Procrastination is one of the most common traps that fear uses to prevent us from acting. Another sign that fear is present in your life is self-sabotage. Self-sabotage can occur in many ways. You start a project and, halfway through, lose motivation. You commit to a new goal but quickly find excuses not to follow through. You seek opportunities, but when they arise, you feel insecure and avoid them. This behavior is an unconscious way of protecting yourself from the frustration that failure can cause. However, what we often don't realize is that by doing this, we're actually giving up on achieving what we truly want. We're sabotaging our happiness and growth out of fear of what might go wrong. The constant need for approval and validation is another clear indication that fear is present. People who depend on others' approval to make decisions, who find it hard to say no, or who constantly need praise to feel good about themselves, generally fear being rejected or criticized. This type of fear is very common and can be paralyzing. Fear of rejection makes you live to please others, ignoring your own wants and needs. This ends up creating a life based on what others expect of you rather than what you truly want for yourself. Another common sign is the constant comparison with others. Often, people feel insecure when comparing themselves to colleagues, friends, or even strangers on social media. This behavior reflects a fear of not being good enough or not meeting the expectations they imagine others have. Comparison, rather than motivating, can trigger feelings of inferiority and discouragement. Instead of helping us grow, it paralyzes us. It's as if, by observing others' successes, you feel you'll never be able to achieve the same, which feeds the fear of trying and failing even more. If you avoid making decisions, this is yet another clear sign that fear is controlling you. Indecision, especially with choices that could significantly impact your life, is a way to avoid risk. Important decisions require courage and confidence, and when fear is present, it generates constant doubts. You begin to question all possibilities, fear regret, and end up preferring not to decide anything. However, this doesn't eliminate the problem. It only postpones it. Not deciding is in fact a decision itself. To remain where you are without advancing without experiencing, and consequently without growing. Anxiety is also a strong sign that fear is present. When you live in a constant state of alert, worried about what might go wrong or what others will think, you are living more in the future than in the present. Anxiety is a form of projected fear. You fear what hasn't happened yet, and rather than dealing with the situation rationally, you end up being dominated by imaginary scenarios. This fear of the future can prevent you from enjoying the present moment and taking actions that could lead to a fuller, more meaningful life. The pursuit of perfection is another indication that fear dominates you. Perfection is an illusion, but many of us believe we'll only be worthy of something once we reach this ideal state. This thought is nothing more than a disguised form of fear. When you believe you need to be perfect to deserve love, success, or happiness, you're actually telling yourself that you're afraid of being seen as imperfect, of not being accepted, of failing. This perfectionism prevents you from taking risks, trying new things, and accepting that mistakes are part of the learning process. Finally, resistance to change is one of the clearest signs that fear is in action. Change takes us out of our comfort zone, and for many people, that's frightening. Even if life as it is now is unsatisfying, it's known, predictable, and that brings a false sense of security. When you avoid changes, even those that could improve your life, you are actually feeding the fear of losing control or facing the unknown. This fear of change can make you stay in unsatisfying situations, in jobs you don't like, in relationships that don't bring you joy, simply because the alternative, the new, the uncertain, is something you fear. Now that you know the signs that fear might be limiting your life, it's essential to consider how to overcome it. Recognizing these behavior patterns is already the first step. From there, it's possible to seek tools and strategies to deal with these fears and start transforming them into courage and self-confidence. Therapy, meditation, self-awareness exercises, and stepping out of your comfort zone are effective ways to face these fears. Remember, fear will always be present at some level, but it doesn't have to be the guide of your decisions. Face your fears and take back control of your life. When you learn to identify and confront the signs of fear, you open yourself up to a richer, more authentic, and much more fulfilling existence. As we become aware of how fear impacts our lives, it's natural to feel resistance or even doubt our ability to overcome it. However, the simple act of recognizing these patterns is one of the most powerful steps toward transformation. Once we identify the signs of fear, whether expressed through procrastination, self-sabotage, or comparison with others, we create space to replace these habits with healthier, more courageous attitudes. Cultivating this awareness of what holds us back allows us to make more conscious choices, giving us a sense of control that once seemed impossible to achieve. Additionally, it's worth remembering that facing fear doesn't mean eradicating it completely. It's part of the human experience and, in some circumstances, can even play a positive role, like when it alerts us to real dangers. The key is not to let it be the primary guide of our actions. By building strategies to deal with fear in a healthy way, we can come to see it as an opportunity for personal growth. Instead of clinging to limiting beliefs, we choose to nurture a vision of ourselves that values progress, learning, and courage. Thus, we face our fears actively and open the way to a life where our goals and dreams become a priority.